The cast iron pan hit my arm with a sound I'll never forget. It wasn't just the metallic clang against bone. It was the sharp crack that followed, like a tree branch snapping in half. I was standing in our kitchen, holding my car keys, when my sister Emma grabbed the heavy pan right off the stove. 1 second, we were arguing about who needed the car more. The next second, I was on the floor, staring at my arm bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. The pain was immediate and breathtaking. White-hot fire shot up to my shoulder and down to my fingertips. My vision blurred at the edges, and I thought I might throw up. Emma stood over me, still gripping the pan handle, her chest rising and falling like she'd just finished a race. "Look what you made me do," she said, not sorry. Not scared. Almost satisfied. That's when Mom walked in. I looked up at her from the floor, my arm broken, waiting for her to scream. To call 911.
To do something.
Anything. Instead, she sighed and shook her head. "Stop being so dramatic. It's probably just bruise." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Just a strangled sound that might have been "help," "please," or "why." Emma dropped the pan with a loud clatter and wiped her hands on a dish towel like she'd just finished cooking dinner. "She's always been weak," she told Mom casually. "Probably would have broken anyway." From the living room, I could hear the TV still playing. Dad hadn't even looked up from his show. As I lay there, clutching my arm, something inside me finally snapped. Not my bone that was already broken, but my willingness to pretend this was normal. I believed that my family would ever protect me. I hoped that things would somehow get better if I just kept quiet and tried harder. This was never going to stop. Not unless I stopped it myself. That broken arm became the moment everything changed. Not because of the pain, though that was unbearable, but because, lying on that kitchen floor, I realized I had a choice. I could keep living in a house where violence was called an accident and my pain was called drama, or I could find a way out. I chose to fight back. And it started with telling someone the truth. To understand how my sister could break my arm and my mother could call it nothing, you need to know how I grew up. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. Nice house in the suburbs.
2 cars are in the driveway.
Holiday cards with everyone smiling. But inside our house, there were rules I never spoke out loud. Emma was the golden child. I was the problem. It started when we were little. Emma was 3 years older, and from the moment I could walk, she made sure I knew my place. If I got a toy for Christmas, she'd break it within a week and say it was an accident. If I got praise for good grades, she'd find a way to make me look stupid in front of our parents. When I was 10, Emma pushed me down the stairs because I was using her bathroom. I tumbled to the bottom, scraping my face on the wooden steps. When Mom found me crying with a bloody nose, Emma said I had tripped. Mom believed her immediately. "You need to be more careful," she told me while cleaning the blood off my face. That became the pattern. Emma would hurt me. I would get blamed for being careless, clumsy, or dramatic. When I was 13, the night before school pictures, Emma cut off chunks of my hair while I was sleeping. I woke up with bald patches and uneven lengths that made me look like I'd stuck my finger in an electrical socket. Emma said she was trying to help because my hair looked messy. Mom made me wear a hat to school for weeks until it grew out enough to fix. She never punished Emma. At 15, I saved up for months to buy a bike so I could get to my after-school job. Emma borrowed it one day and came home with the front wheel completely bent. She said she'd hit a pothole, but my friend saw her ramming it into a tree because she was angry about something. When I told Mom what happened, she said I was being paranoid and that accidents happen. The worst was when I turned 16. I had been saving money from babysitting and dog walking for 2 years, hiding cash in an old shoebox under my bed. I was planning to use it for a car or college applications. One day, the box was empty. Emma had taken every dollar, over $800, and spent it on clothes and makeup. When I confronted her, she said I owed her for all the times she'd covered for me with our parents. When I told Mom and Dad, they said money shouldn't come between sisters and that I should be happy to share with family. They made me apologize to Emma for accusing her of stealing. Dad was never around for these conversations. He worked long hours and spent his free time watching TV or working in the garage. When Emma and I fought, he'd wave his hand without looking up and say, "Your mother handles sister stuff." He treated our problems like background noise he didn't want to hear. Mom had her phrases ready for every situation. "Sisters fight, that's normal. You're too sensitive. Emma doesn't mean it. Family sticks together no matter what." These phrases were like magic spells that made Emma's behavior disappear and made my pain invalid. The message was clear. Emma could do whatever she wanted to me, and I was supposed to take it silently. If I complained, I was the problem. If I fought back, I was starting drama. If I got hurt, I was overreacting. By the time I was 17, I had learned to stay quiet. To avoid Emma when she was in a bad mood. To keep my things hidden. To never expect my parents to take my side. I thought this was just how families worked. I thought I was the problem child who needed to try harder to fit in. I had no idea that other families didn't work this way. That other parents protected all their children equally. That other sisters didn't use violence to solve every disagreement. I thought this was normal until the day Emma broke my arm, and I finally realized it wasn't. The week before Emma broke my arm was the worst week of my life up to that point. Everything started when my college acceptance letter arrived. I had applied to the state university with a partial academic scholarship. Emma had applied to the same school and been rejected. When my acceptance letter came in the mail, I was so excited that I screamed. This was my ticket out. My chance to start over somewhere Emma couldn't follow me. Emma was in the kitchen when I ran in, waving the letter. Her face went from curious to cold in about 2 seconds. She snatched the letter from my hands and read it silently, her jaw getting tighter with every word. "This is a mistake," she said finally. "You're not college material." Mom looked over Emma's shoulder and read the letter. I expected her to be proud, maybe even excited. Instead, she frowned. "College is expensive," she said. "And you've never been away from home. Maybe you should stay local and help with the family." That night at dinner, Emma started her campaign. She told our parents how selfish I was being, choosing a school so far away when the family needed me. She said I was abandoning everyone who had supported me. She even suggested that maybe I should decline the acceptance letter for family unity. I said no. For the first time in my life, I looked Emma directly in the eye and said, "Absolutely not. I'm going to college." That's when things got really bad. The next day, Emma accidentally spilled bleach all over my work uniform while doing laundry. I had to go to my job at the grocery store smelling like chemicals and wearing clothes with white splotches all over them. My manager sent me home early. 2 days later, I came home to find my scholarship paperwork torn into tiny pieces and scattered across my bed. Emma said she had no idea how it happened. Maybe the wind blew it around when she opened my window. I spent hours taping the pieces back together. On Friday, Emma blocked my car in the driveway with her car and went shopping with friends. I was supposed to work that afternoon but couldn't get out. I had to call in sick and lost a day's pay. When I confronted Emma, she shrugged and said she forgot I needed to leave. By Sunday, I was exhausted from constantly watching my back. Emma would smile at me during family dinner, then find ways to make my life miserable when our parents weren't looking. She put salt in my shampoo bottle. She hid my work shoes. She told my boss I was thinking about quitting. Monday morning, I had a meeting at school about college prep classes. I needed the car to get there on time. Emma also wanted the car to go shopping with her friends. This had happened 100 times before and I had always given in. But this time I couldn't. This meeting was about my future. "I need the car today," I told Emma. "My meeting is important." "Your meeting can wait," she said. "I already made plans." "No," I said. "This is about college. It can't wait." Emma's face changed. "Your college doesn't matter more than my plans." "Actually," I said, "it does." That's when she grabbed the car keys from my hand. We struggled for a few seconds, both of us pulling on the key ring. She was stronger, but I was more desperate. Then Emma looked at the stove and saw the cast iron pan sitting there. The rest happened so fast I barely had time to be afraid. The pain was so intense I couldn't think straight. My arm felt like it was on fire, and every time I tried to move my fingers, lightning bolts shot up to my shoulder. I could see that my arm was bent wrong, like it had an extra joint in the middle of my forearm. Mom stood in the doorway looking annoyed, not worried. "It's probably just sprained," she said. "Put some ice on it." I tried to tell her I heard the bone crack, but she was already walking away. Emma dropped the pan in the sink and went to her room like nothing had happened. Dad never even came to look. I spent that night on the couch with a bag of frozen peas on my arm, unable to sleep because of the pain. Every time I dozed off, I'd shift position and wake up gasping. My arm was turning purple and swelling so much I couldn't bend my elbow. In the morning, I couldn't move my fingers at all. The swelling had gotten worse overnight, and my whole arm was hot to the touch. I begged Mom to take me to the doctor. "Stop being so dramatic," she said. "If it was really broken, you'd be screaming." I was too tired and hurt to argue. I walked 3 blocks to Mrs. Peterson's house, our elderly neighbor, and asked her to drive me to the emergency room. She took one look at my arm and grabbed her car keys, without asking questions. At the hospital, the X-ray tech whistled when she saw the images. "Honey, this isn't just broken," she said. "This is completely fractured. You're going to need surgery." The doctor, a kind woman with gray hair, sat down next to me and spoke quietly. "How did this happen?" she asked. "This looks like it was caused by a heavy impact." I started to say I fell, the lie I'd been preparing, but something in her voice made me stop. She looked at me like she actually cared about the answer. "My sister hit me with a pan," I whispered. The doctor's face grew serious. "I need to call your parents about the surgery," she said. "But first, I want you to know that what happened to you isn't normal family conflict. No one should break your arm and then refuse to get you help." When the doctor called Mom, I could hear Mom's voice through the phone. "Are you sure it's that serious?" She tends to be dramatic about everything. The doctor's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Johnson, your daughter needs immediate surgery. The bone is completely fractured." There was a pause. Then Mom said, "Well, what will people think when they see her in a cast?" I felt something break inside me that had nothing to do with my arm. My mother's first concern wasn't my pain or my healing. It was what other people would think. Neither of my parents came to the hospital. I had surgery alone, with Mrs. Peterson holding my hand before they put me under anesthesia. When I woke up with a cast from my knuckles to my elbow, Mrs. Peterson was still there. "Your parents said they were too busy to come," she told me gently. "But I'll stay as long as you need." While I was recovering, I got a text from Emma. "Hope you learned your lesson about respecting your family." Then one from Mom. "Don't make this bigger than it is. People will think we're a dysfunctional family." I stared at those messages for a long time. Emma had broken my arm and was acting like I deserved it. Mom was more worried about our image than my health. Dad hadn't even bothered to contact me. That's when it hit me. They would literally rather have me suffer in silence than admit Emma had done something wrong. Mrs. Peterson let me use her laptop while she made tea. I looked up "Sister broke my arm" and found pages about domestic violence and family abuse. I read story after story of people whose families hurt them and then acted like it was normal. I wasn't crazy. This wasn't normal. And I wasn't safe in my own home. I found a domestic violence hotline and called while Mrs. Peterson was in the garden. A counselor named Sarah listened to my story and said 6 words that changed everything. "You deserve to be protected and safe." No one in my family had ever said that to me. But this stranger on the phone said it like it was obvious, like it was my basic right. That's when I knew I had to get out. Getting away from my family wasn't going to be as simple as packing a bag and leaving. I was 17, still a minor, and I had no money since Emma had stolen my savings. I needed a plan, and I needed proof of what was happening to me. Sarah from the crisis hotline became my lifeline. I called her every Tuesday and Thursday when my family thought I was at the library studying. She taught me how to document abuse and build a case for emancipation. First, I got copies of all my medical records from the hospital. The X-rays clearly showed the type of break that comes from trauma, not accidents. The doctor's notes mentioned that my injury was consistent with assault by blunt object. These documents were proof that someone had hurt me intentionally. I started taking photos of everything. Pictures of my cast from different angles. Photos of older bruises and marks that I'd always hidden. I even took pictures of the kitchen where it happened, showing how Emma could have reached the pan from where we were fighting. Next, I went through my phone and saved screenshots of every cruel text Emma had sent me over the years. Messages where she called me worthless. Threats about what would happen if I ever told anyone about our private family business. Texts where she bragged about taking my money or breaking my things. I also saved emails and voicemails from my parents. Mom's message from the hospital day saying, "Don't be dramatic about this." Dad's voicemail saying, "Your mother handles sister problems. Don't call me at work." These showed the pattern of them dismissing my pain and refusing to protect me. The hardest part was reaching out to people outside my family. Sarah helped me practice what to say. I started with Mrs. Martinez, my English teacher, who had always been kind to me. When I told her what happened, she cried. She said she'd noticed I seemed scared and tired lately, but didn't know how to help. Mrs. Martinez helped me contact other teachers who had seen Emma's behavior over the years. My math teacher remembered when Emma publicly humiliated me during a school event. The librarian recalled Emma destroying a project I'd worked on for weeks. These witness statements showed that Emma's cruelty wasn't limited to home. I reached out to my friend Jess, who had seen some of the accidents Emma caused. Jess admitted she always thought something was wrong, but didn't know how to bring it up. She wrote down everything she remembered. The time Emma pushed me into a locker, the time she accidentally spilled lunch on me every day for a week, the time she told lies about me to ruin a friendship. Through Sarah, I connected with a legal aid lawyer who specialized in teen cases. She explained that I could petition for emancipation once I turned 18, but in the meantime, she could help me get a restraining order if Emma threatened me again. I opened a new bank account at a different bank where my parents couldn't access it. I started working extra shifts at the grocery store and saving every penny in my secret account. Mrs. Martinez let me use the school's computer to apply for jobs that Emma didn't know about. Most importantly, I found my strength. Every piece of evidence I gathered made me more sure that I wasn't crazy or dramatic. Every person who believed my story made me realize I deserved better. Every dollar I saved brought me closer to freedom. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal at home while building my escape plan. But every time Emma smirked at me or Mom dismissed my feelings, I reminded myself that I was gathering proof. Their cruelty was becoming the evidence that would set me free. 3 weeks after getting my cast off, I was ready to leave. I had saved enough money for a security deposit on a small apartment. Mrs. Martinez had helped me apply for early graduation, so I could start college in the spring instead of waiting until fall. Most importantly, I had finally found the courage to stop hiding the truth. I chose a Tuesday for my escape because my parents would be at work and Emma had classes all day. I packed light, just clothes, important documents, and a few things that mattered to me. Everything fit in 2 duffel bags and my backpack. I left a letter on my bed explaining my decision. I didn't ask for permission or apologize. I simply told them I was leaving because I wasn't safe in their house and I wouldn't be coming back. I left copies of the medical records and photos so they couldn't pretend they didn't know why. Mrs. Martinez picked me up at noon. As we drove away from the house where I'd spent 17 years, I felt scared and free at the same time. I was staying temporarily with a foster family through the crisis center while I looked for permanent housing. My phone started ringing within an hour. First Mom, then Dad, then Emma. I let them all go to voicemail. When I finally listened to the messages, they were exactly what I expected. Mom, come home right now. We can work this out. People will think something terrible happened here.
Dad, your mother is crying.
Look what you've done to this family. Emma, you're being ridiculous. I barely touched you, and now you're acting like I'm some kind of monster. How dare you embarrass our family like this? I blocked their numbers and changed my phone plan so they couldn't cut off my service. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation that surprised me. My Uncle Mike was having a big family barbecue for his birthday. The invitation included my new address, which meant someone in the family knew where I was and supported my decision to leave. I debated whether to go. Part of me wanted to hide and start fresh with no connection to my old life. But Sarah from the crisis line reminded me that I had spent 17 years being silenced. Maybe it was time for the rest of my family to hear the truth. I decided to go, but I went prepared. I brought a folder with copies of all my evidence: photos, medical records, text messages, and witness statements. I wasn't going to let Emma control the narrative anymore. When I walked into Uncle Mike's backyard, conversation stopped. I could see people whispering and glancing at me. Emma was holding court near the picnic table, surrounded by cousins, clearly already telling her version of recent events. She just ran away like a spoiled brat. I heard her saying. She couldn't handle being asked to follow family rules, so she made up this whole dramatic story about me hurting her. Several relatives nodded sympathetically. I heard someone say, "Teenagers these days are so entitled." That's when I walked over and set my folder on the picnic table. "I'd like to tell my side of the story," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Emma's face went pale, but she quickly recovered. "No one wants to hear more of your lies," she said. I opened the folder and pulled out the X-ray images. "These aren't lies," I said. "This is my arm after Emma hit me with a cast iron pan." A hush fell over the group. I passed the X-rays around, watching relatives' faces change as they saw the clear fracture. The doctor who treated me said this injury was consistent with assault. I continued. "Here's his report." Emma tried to interrupt. "She's taking everything out of context." "Let me play you the voicemail you left me after I got out of surgery," I said, pulling out my phone. Emma's voice came through clearly. "Hope you learned your lesson about respecting your family. You could have heard a pin drop." I showed them photos of old bruises. I read aloud some of Emma's cruelest text messages. I explained about the stolen money, the destroyed belongings, the years of accidents that were really attacks. "The night Emma broke my arm," I said, "Mom told me to stop overreacting." She was more worried about what people would think than whether I needed medical help. Dad never even came to look at me. Uncle Mike, who had been silent throughout my presentation, finally spoke up. "Is this true?" he asked Mom and Dad. Mom's face was red. "She's twisting everything," she said. "Families have problems. That's private." "Breaking your daughter's arm isn't a private family problem," Aunt Carol said sharply. "It's assault." Emma tried one more time to control the situation. "You're all being manipulated," she said. She's always been good at making herself look like a victim. I looked directly at Emma. "Then deny it," I said. "Tell everyone you never hit me with that pan." Emma opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked around the silent group and saw no support in their faces. Finally, Uncle Mike spoke for everyone. "I think you need to leave," he told Emma and my parents. "And don't contact her again unless you're ready to apologize." As they gathered their things to go, I felt something I'd never experienced before: the power of being believed. The months after that barbecue were both the hardest and most liberating of my life. I had burned bridges with my immediate family, but I'd also freed myself from their control. For the first time in 17 years, I could make choices without fear of retaliation. Uncle Mike and Aunt Carol became my unlikely allies. They helped me find a small studio apartment near the community college and co-signed my lease when the landlord hesitated because of my age. Aunt Carol, who worked in banking, helped me understand credit and budgeting. Uncle Mike taught me practical skills like changing car oil and fixing basic household problems. I enrolled in community college classes while finishing my high school requirements early. My grades were better than they'd ever been at home because I wasn't constantly stressed about what Emma might do next. I could study without hiding my books or worrying that someone would destroy my homework. Working became easier too. Without Emma sabotaging my uniform or making me late, I earned a promotion at the grocery store and started training new employees. My manager, who had watched me grow more confident over the months, offered to write recommendation letters for my university applications. The hardest part was learning to trust people. I'd spent so long believing that conflict was normal and that love came with conditions. When my neighbor offered to help me move furniture, I waited for her to ask for something in return. When classmates invited me to study groups, I wondered what they really wanted from me. Sarah from the crisis line connected me with a counselor who specialized in family trauma. Through therapy, I learned words for things I'd experienced but never understood. Gaslighting, when Emma and Mom convinced me my reality wasn't real. Scapegoating, making me the problem child while Emma could do no wrong. Triangulation, using other family members to pressure me into compliance. Understanding these patterns helped me see that I wasn't defective. I was a normal person who had survived abnormal treatment. By my 19th birthday, I was thriving in ways I'd never imagined possible. I had a small circle of genuine friends who respected my boundaries. I was excelling in my psychology classes and had decided to become a family counselor. My apartment was tiny but peaceful, no walking on eggshells, no bracing for attacks, no having my belongings destroyed or stolen. The transformation wasn't just external. I looked different too. The constant tension in my shoulders was gone. I smiled more easily. I spoke up in class discussions instead of hiding in the back row. People started describing me as confident and funny, qualities I never knew I had when I was busy surviving Emma's cruelty. 2 years later, I transferred to the state university with a full academic scholarship. The same school that had accepted me when Emma was rejected, the acceptance letter that triggered her final attack. Walking across that campus on my first day felt like the ultimate victory, not because I was getting revenge, but because I had created the life Emma tried to prevent me from having. I chose to study social work with a focus on family counseling. My professors noticed my passion for helping teenagers in crisis situations. One of them recommended me for an internship at a local family services agency where I worked with kids who were living through situations similar to what I'd experienced. Helping other people recognize and escape family abuse became my calling. When a 15-year-old girl told me her brother accidentally broke her wrist, I knew exactly what questions to ask. When a boy said his parents told him he was overreacting to his sister's violence, I could offer him validation no one had given me. My clients often asked how I could be so certain that their situations weren't normal. I would show them the scar on my arm from Emma's attack and explain that I understood the difference between sibling rivalry and abuse because I had lived it. The work was emotionally challenging, but also deeply healing. Every young person I helped escape a toxic family situation felt like I was saving my younger self. Every time I provided the protection and validation that no adult had given me, I was rewriting the story of what families should do for each other. Success, I learned, wasn't just about personal achievement. It was about transforming pain into purpose and using my experience to light the way for others trapped in similar darkness. 5 years have passed since Emma broke my arm, and I can honestly say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because I enjoyed being hurt, but because it finally shattered my willingness to accept the unacceptable. That cast iron pan to my arm didn't just break bone. It broke the spell my family had cast over me for 17 years. It broke my belief that their treatment of me was normal. It broke my fear of speaking the truth. It broke the chains that kept me trapped in a house where violence was called love and pain was called drama. Last month, I ran into Emma at the grocery store where I used to work. She was with my mother, both of them looking older and somehow smaller than I remembered. Emma started to approach me with a fake smile, probably ready to act like nothing had ever happened. I looked at her for a moment, remembering the girl who used to terrorize me. Then I quietly turned my cart around and walked away. Not because I was afraid, but because I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no desire for confrontation. She was just a stranger who used to hurt me, and I had built a life where she had no power. I heard later that Emma still lives with our parents, bouncing between jobs and blaming other people for her problems. The skills that once gave her control over me, manipulation, intimidation, playing victim, don't work in the real world where people can simply walk away. My success isn't revenge. It's proof that leaving toxic family behind wasn't giving up, it was growing up. Today, I help other young people recognize that family isn't defined by blood alone, but by love, respect, and protection. Real family doesn't break your bones and call it normal. If you're living this story right now, know that the people hurting you are wrong. You're not overreacting. You're not too sensitive. You don't owe loyalty to people who harm you. There's a whole world of people who'll treat you with the kindness your family should have shown you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to value your worth. That broken arm taught me I'm worth protecting, even if I have to protect myself. Your pain matters. Your safety matters. You matter. And you deserve so much better than what they're giving you.